Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to look at the A1 True Life Bikini Confidential. So last time we looked at A1, well not last time, but a few episodes ago, we looked at A1 6A, and supposedly there was going to be a completely separate issue, 6B. And when I looked at my shelf, to my surprise, there was no 6B. Turns out they never put it out. I guess they ran out of money. Unfortunately, the ad for it in 6A for 6B looks amazing, like all the A1s. So I'm so bummed. One of them I noticed was Melting Pot by Kevin Eastman and Simon Bisley. So obviously some of these things found a home somewhere. But it looked like a really good issue. I'm so bummed. And I totally forgot about that. I didn't realize. But we do have one more Atomica Press A1 special here. And this actually came out before A1 number 5. So it's a little out of chronological order, but I wanted to do the main A1s and then go back to the special. This is a very salacious issue. And in honor of this very sensual issue of A1, I'm completely naked today. I'm completely nude. I don't have a stitch of clothing on. So I hope YouTube doesn't take me down. But I thought it would be apropos, considering this is a kind of a naughty comic. Also, I wanted to celebrate. I just recently finally got 500 subscribers. It only took over a year. That's what happens when all your videos are pretty much for adults only. So thanks guys, thanks to all my subscribers. I hope you guys enjoy watching these videos, and yeah, I'm gonna keep trying to do them every day, come hell or high water or hangover. But this is a really good issue, like most of the A1s. It's we start off here with an Adam Hughes cover. Of course, if you're gonna do like a sexy issue of A1, you can get the master of modern cheesecake art, Adam Hughes. And this is pretty hot. We also see Mr. Monster drawn by Michael T. Gilbert, Zerk drawn by Gary Leach, and I don't know who draws this Betty Page. I think it might be Gary Leach. So instead of the normal Atomica logo, we have this racy little 2-page spread. And we have the contents page. I guess that Betty Page was by Gary Leach because it doesn't credit anyone else for the cover. Well, guys, before we continue, I also wanted to mention I also unlocked one more Classic Underground comic from the list. I put it up a year ago, and then I took it down when I realized YouTube didn't like some of the stuff I was doing. But I just recently looked at it, and it's really not that bad. It does have an adults-only viewing policy, whatever that's called. So, it's a really amazing Psychotic Adventures Illustrated by Charles Dallas. It is really great stuff. So either go to the search engine, look up Psychotic Adventures, or go to the playlist Going Underground. And it's pretty early on in that list. Okay, let's get back to this. So we start off with a Mr. Monster comic. And I don't know if he planned this the whole time, but we see a letter here from Michael Gilbert to Ken Bruzenak, his amazing letterer. And he says, I guess I misheard the directions from the A1 editors. I put lots of violence in this comic, but they really wanted lots of sex. So maybe you could draw the... you could rework some of the cheesecake drawings you used from the famous Monsters of Filmland. So, according to this, these cheesecake drawings are all drawn by Ken Bruzenak, who, as far as I knew, couldn't even draw. I never knew he could draw, and he's quite good. So basically, it's Mr. Monster story. If we're to believe Michael T. Gilbert, he had penciled, inked it, it was all done. But then he realized he had to put sex in it, so he shrunk down the pages and gave it this border, this cheesecake border. And we see in the Mr. Monster story, this little kid is playing near a toxic waste dump, and the tentacles of this like toxic waste monster are reaching for this cute little kid. And then we have this border with, I assume, Ken Brzezinski art. And these are all just kind of like, obviously, it makes sense they were in Famous Monsters of Filmland, because the humor is kind of cheesy and corny. And then Mr. Monster shows up and blows away, shoots off the tentacles of this monster, and saves the kid. Some more of this cheesecake. All of these women are kind of monsters or witches or something. So then all of a sudden, more creatures come out of the toxic waste dump. And he's like, I don't know, almost like this ice creature. Looks like crystals. Like he would fight Crystar, the Crystal Warrior. And he has a freeze ray, a freeze breath. But Mr. Monster takes out this thermo bomb. It's kind of a shame that these pages are shrunk down. Sometimes it's hard to read the dialogue. And this is top-notch Michael T. Gilbert art. This is a really good Mr. Monster story. I don't know if this was ever reprinted at normal size. Michael T. Gilbert reprinted a lot of Mr. Monster in different formats over and over again. But it's a goofy, well-drawn story. But I wish we could see it bigger. I like this one. And so Mr. Monster dispatches that monster. This is Medusa von Viper. If you're the type of party animal that loves getting stoned, one glance from this cold-blooded cutie will do the trick. That's what all these descriptions are like. They're pretty corny. And then this weird, like, fog monster attacks them. And Mr. Monster dispatches it with silver iodide. Turns it into rain. So this just keeps happening every page. Another monster comes out. Mr. Monster pulls out another crazy weapon. This one, he has a portable atom bomb against this goop monster. And he blows him sky high. I kind of like this ending where Mr. Monster says to the kid, "So what do you think, Pee-wee? Nice visuals. A little short on plot, but on the whole, not bad for an 8-pager. Kind of cute ending. But, man, Ken Brzezinski, so good. I would definitely say he's the best letterer ever to work in comics. You could take that to the bank. Oh, this is great. I love when Brian Bolland does these kind of like sketchy personal pieces. I mean, he's so good at drawing full-on sci-fi and superhero stuff. But these Mr. Mammalian type... Ooh, excuse me. These Mr. Mammalian type comics are really good. So, this one's kind of funny, where he's basically talking about Brian Bolland's addressing the reader, and he's saying, "What do you want? So you want a story, right? And I assume you're comic fans, so you probably want a heroic, muscle-to-work males with phallic weaponry carving up aliens and vulnerable near-naked females. And it's all about sex and violence." What they want is little parcels of events in which things happen to challenge the status quo. And after a struggle of some kind, the status quo is either preserved or destroyed. Talking about the total comic book formula since, the golden age up. And he basically talks about how it's this almost illness. There's millions of people consuming stories and millions of people producing stories to feed that hunger. And basically Brian Bolland's wondering is this all just a terrible misunderstanding? What if people just stopped? There's too many stories in the world. Such a good cartoonist. I mean, just a great artist. I mean, and then this leads right into a Zerk story. I don't know if you guys ever seen Zerk. He's like this interstellar pervert alien. I think he started in Warrior magazine. I think he was part of Laser, Eraser, and Press Button, but I could be wrong. And but it is written by Pedro Henry, who wrote those, and they're just very zany. They're almost like underground comics. These Zerk stories. This one's called Siren of the Stars. We see this siren. She's calling out to Zerk. He can't resist. Zerk is basically attracted to anyone with longer limbs than his because he's got these stumpy little legs. So just it doesn't matter what race you are, what species. He wants to get with you. He wants to get down. So we see a little flashback. We find out the siren was hired by this guy, J. Jonah Juglywig. And he wants her to lure Zerk into this into a spaceship where he's got this room with a Noctopus night squid, and that he'll take care of Zerk. Zerk is very repulsive. He's just always sweating and slimy. I'm sorry, I didn't even mention, this is Brian Bolland art. You could probably tell. But it's just perfect Brian Bolland art. It looks like older Brian Bolland art, like this could have been in 2000 AD or something. I guess it is 1990, but this looks even older than that. But just impeccable line work. He's so good. So Zerk is lured into the spaceship by the siren, and the tentacle comes out from the night squid, and of course it's a Zerk comic, so instead of killing Zerk, he ends up making sweet, sweet love to Zerk. And Zerk is very attracted by his long tentacles. And so I guess the spaceship blows up. You know, Zerk escapes, at least from the octopus room. The octopus is saying, or the squid is saying, "Come back, Zerk, I love you." The space siren escapes in her little space bubble, and it turns out that Zerk has stowed away on her ship with squeeze tubes of avocado puree, which is like lube for Zerk. And as the ship flies away, we hear her screaming. So this is Hell City. I don't know if you guys remember, we looked at Hell City, I think 2 issues ago, 2 A1s ago. And it's written by Alan Martin, drawn by, oh my God, having a mental block here. Jamie Hewlett, the same team who created Tank Girl. And Hell City kind of has a very, the story we looked at last time has a very Tank Girl vibe. Cool, awesome chick, and her cool friend, and they're fighting giant monsters, Godzilla-type kaiju, and they're cracking jokes. But this is so different. It's so weird that this is the same writer-artist and the same characters. This is very, I don't know, reflective. It's so this main character here, this woman, I'll get her name in a second. I guess she wrote a book. This publisher, he decided to publish it, and he's having this party, like a release party, but she's nowhere to be found. So her friend, he's just like, "Hey, have you seen her? What the hell? Why isn't she here?" And the publisher says, "Oh, didn't you hear? I've kidnapped her. She's going to fall in love with me, and then we're going to get married." And her friend keeps saying, "Ah, you're a real kidder." And the publisher keeps saying, no, you don't understand. I really have kidnapped her. And the friend just keeps saying, what a guy. Okay, here we go. The woman's name is Danny. And we see Danny tied up in the publisher's mansion. Her friend is named Rob Roy, by the way. And so the party clears out. Everyone's left. Rob Roy's still there waiting for Danny to show up. He's still saying, I can't imagine what happened to her. I'll go see if she's at home. He just won't believe this publisher who's admitting his crime. And then the publisher comes home. He basically says, yes, you are going to fall in love with me. He's totally psychotic. Of course, she's like, how can you love me? You don't even know me. We just met. You're insane. You're talking crap. And this guy's completely deluded. He's like, oh no, you're in love with me. I can tell by the way you look at me. So he allows her to walk on his private beach. And just, it's so different than that other Hell City story. It's just like, just very, she's just very reflective. Just, she hasn't slept. She doesn't want to fall asleep because she doesn't want to miss any chance to escape. So she's getting a little weirder in her head. And she keeps, she's basically suffering from sleep deprivation. She's starting to hallucinate. She sees Rob Roy with a harp and angel's wings. And so Rob Roy's driving around, still not driving to the publisher's house necessarily, still doesn't get that she's there. And so Danny escapes finally. And Rob Roy just ends up getting drunk and forgets all about Danny. And so the publisher is climbs out the window to see what happened to Danny, and he falls to his apparent death. There's a funfair Ferris wheel under this his mansion. I love this. They quote that Palisades Park song. You'll never know how great a kiss can feel when you stop at the top of a Ferris wheel. And I fell in love. Very strange for the little I know of Hell City. That other story's so different in tone. So here we have the first of a three-parter. And this is definitely from Warrior. So there's a character in Warrior called Shandor, Demon Stalker. He's like this priest who fights demons. And apparently there was this femme fatale demoness who was the antagonist to Shandor. And they gave her her own series. And we set it up with how there's all these alternate dimensions, demon realms, and we see this one kind of higher up demon named Ux Parabilus, Lord of the Upper Echelons. And basically, our main character, God, how do you say this? The logo is kind of hard to read. Let me see. Oh, Jerem Sheila. This is the demoness. And basically, he has her captured in his beautiful, hellish palace. But she's there with her friend, who's this like goat guy named Pharynix. He's a demon as well. So this is written by Steve Moore, longtime 2000 AD writer, and drawn by David Jackson. I don't know much about David Jackson. I'm pretty sure he did a lot of stuff for 2000 AD. Really like his art. It's very just like 70s fantasy art. Like, totally picture this guy drawn for eerie and creepy. Almost like John Bolton, if John Bolton wasn't as good as he is. Some pretty good art here. And so Cajero Cilla escapes, and they make it to this realm called Oscarian. And there's these, like, basically 9 elder gods, elder demons sitting on these pillars. And I guess Pharynix, his master, is called Macagrodaic. And they basically ask him for wisdom. I like that. That's pretty good. So he basically says you got to find Gazok Greymind. And he'll help you find your vengeance and your, power. And he basically casts them out of his realm. That's the end of chapter 1. We have another Dreams of the Taco Fiend by Bob Burden. Once again, these are homages to Winsor McKay's Dreams of a Rarebit Fiend, except it's tacos instead of rarebit. Bob Burden and Hugo Saltine. Still don't know who that is. I guess I could look it up, but I'm lazy. And this is another kind of funny one. Basically, this guy's having this weird nightmare. And, of course, he wakes up and says, "Oh, I'll never eat tacos again." This is really interesting. Click. Story by Melinda Gebbie. Art by Carol Swain. And kind of interesting. I love Melinda Gebbie's writing. I love her art. It's almost like, I don't know which one I like more. I think I like her writing more. She has this amazing, unique, view of the world. If you've ever can track it down, you got to get her Solo Underground, Frescazizis. It is really amazing. It's just no one writes like her. But of course, she's also an amazing artist. So this is interesting, just getting her to write a story. And it's really good. It's about this woman, and I think she's like a middle-aged woman. Kind of hard to tell the way Carol Swain draws her very expressionistic style. I really like Carol Swain's art, though. And she gets this middle-aged woman gets this job at a 1-800-sex line. And she's never done it before, so it's kind of eye-opening to her. And we just see all these calls come in. Some people just hang up. And she meets basically all these pervs and weirdos. And some of them aren't that weird. They're just, lonely people. And, she's a newbie, so she's trying to, talk dirty. This is kind of funny. She's trying to learn the ropes, But it's all kinds of perversions, Some young guy calls her up with a mommy fetish, and she has to basically discipline him verbally. And then there's this really weird call where, it's the same call where she's playing a sexy school teacher, a very dominating school teacher, and she's quizzing the kid on the other line. And, of course, the kid can't answer any of the questions. Most of them. And, of course, this is all going to lead up to that she can discipline him for failing the test. But then she says, one last question. How do you shrink a human head? And it's a very ornate answer here. As if she really knows. So she gets home to her, middle-aged husband, and she tells him about her day. And she says, "Do you know anything about making shrunken heads?" And the husband almost verbatim repeats the same thing about how to make a shrunken head. And of course, this woman's like, "Oh, I know what you did today." I don't know, somehow she didn't recognize her husband's voice. But kind of cute ending. So we have like a little portfolio, Betty Page. And they got asked all of these comic artists to draw the queen of good girl art. Dave Dorman starts us off. We have a Mark Beecham faux cover for Strange Fantasies. I kind of like this. Mark Beecham has the most unique style of drawing women's hips. Like, all I have to see is this, and I'd be like, yeah, that's Mark Beecham. He loved drawing women in G-strings. He had this comic, a newsstand comic called Samurai. I don't know how to pronounce it. Samurai, which was all about this female ninja-type woman who it was all about her thong creeping up her butt crack. Every shot was her just a thin little piece of cloth hiding her buttocks. Here we have Alan Davis. Man, he looks so much like Byrne, Alan Davis. But now that Byrne doesn't draw like Byrne, it's nice that we got Alan Davis. This is a nice one. John Bolton doing a faux, like, kind of pulp. Even though this is a comic book. But it's, what is this? Oh, Weird Tales. But it's Tails. This is Mark Schultz of Cadillacs and Dinosaurs fame. Oh, it's nice to see Mark Schultz. Just classic great art. I think now we have Adam Hughes. I love this. The villain in this is the Claw with a K. Because she used to work for Irving Claw, the pornographer. Oh, this is nice. Melinda Gibby, speaking of which. Body and Veronica. Stiffy's Girls. And the inimitable Melinda Gibby style. She's another artist you can totally tell. Just her shading is completely unique. Everything about her art is very unique. Boner magazine. A men's magazine. And this is... I have to look this one up. I forgot. Oh, Dave Dorman again. Pretty well drawn. I like this one. Woodrow Phoenix. Very stylized one. It looks like one of those 50s paperbacks. That's a good one. So now we have chapter 2 of Jerem Sheila. And so now she's hanging out with Pharynix, and they find this castle that just rises up from the ground. All these crystal warriors come out. More crystal warriors. And they capture Jerem Sheila. They try to capture Pharynix, but Pharynx has realized they're made of crystal, which is kind of weird, because all you have to do is tap them and they shatter. So he tells Jerem Sheila, he's like, they're crystal, dummy. And then they meet this giant crystal brain. The world brain. Thinker of all within this land. And he basically says, like, yeah, I probably dreamt you. Everything that exists is because I thought of it. It's kind of interesting. Through his crystal vision, this is how he sees Jerem Sheila. The facets of his eyes, I guess. And then he disappears. And they return to those 9 pillars with the 9 elder demons, and they're all gone. This is interesting. This is a Duke. And damn it, I forgot to do this. I wrote it. Let me see. This is I believe Dave Elliott wrote this. William Simpson penciled it, and Dave Elliott inked it. And it's called Duke. And it looks like it takes place in this almost like Blade Runner type future city, or like a Dan O'Bannon design city. And we see this peeping Tom, and he's trying to look at this window, and he slips and falls. And Duke shows up, who's kind of like I think he's a cop, riding this robot cow. It looks like he looks just like John Wayne Duke. See, it's pretty nice art, pretty decent. Some William Simpson art, like the stuff he did in Hellblazer, really bothered me. I hated that stuff, but this isn't nearly as bad. So then John Wayne lets the guy fall because the guy's hanging from this precipice. He's like, "Come on, pull me up." He's like, "I don't know, you dirty peeping Tom. Let me go see, double check to make sure what you were doing." So he flies up to the window that he was looking into, and he sees two women getting down with dildos, and she sees Duke looking in the window, and she basically says, you know, "Goddamn pervert." And she knocks Duke not totally off of his flying horse or flying cow. And it turns out that these two women, they were going to make good money from that peeping Tom. He basically paid them so he could spy on them and get, having crazy sex. So basically, Duke is left in free fall. Luckily his boot caught on the little rocket ship he's got. But this is interesting. Bob's Burgers billboard, be a subgenius, eat Bob's Burgers. It's interesting this is a subgenius reference. Also interesting that it's 20 years before Bob Burgers, the TV show, started. I guess that's not a very unique name, but it's a good Dobbs there. This is kind of interesting. A Temple of Sweat, a prose story by Peter Milligan, illustrated by John Higgins. And this is I'm not going to get into this too much because it's not comics. But Peter Milligan does an okay job. You can tell that he's a better comic writer than he's a prose writer. He's no Alan Moore, let me tell you that. Or Neil Gaiman. So now we have chapter 3 of Jerem Sheila, Revelations. And on this one, Steve Moore's writing once again. But now we have Dougie Braithwaite on pencils and editor Dave Elliott inks. So it looks a little different. I don't like it as much. It's not bad, though. So now Jerem Sheila is delivered to Ux Parabilis again, the demon she escaped from. And then Shandor shows up. And he's like in half here. Kind of an interesting image. It's almost like his blood and gore are like coming out from the half, but then he's united again. His two halves pull together. You can probably tell him the story kind of left me cold. It's just lots of like demon posturing, showing us how cool these demons are. The ending's kind of interesting though. It's so once again they travel through the dimensions and they land in what looks like our world, Jerem Sheila and Pharynix, and they look in a window, and it's supposedly the writer of Jerem Sheila, but his name's Grimmond. It's not Steve Moore. And he says these. We see Grimmond, and he's saying these therapy sessions have helped me so much. Even though those 6 novels established me in the horror market, I've got to move on to something else. I was becoming obsessed by Jerem Sheila. It's like the characters had a life of their own. And Pharynix says, we have no life of our own. We have no reality. We were created. So very like postmodern ending here to this like crazy fantasy story. And Jerem Sheila's outside the window saying, stop this, don't unthink me, basically. Because she knows she'll cease to exist. I guess he based Jerem Sheila on a woman that turned him down 10 years ago, the writer. So he's finding it hard to exercise Jerem Sheila. He doesn't want to keep writing the stories, but it's almost like he's in love with his own character. The doctor says, go to the tobacco shop around the corner. She works there, that woman who broke your heart 10 years ago. Just go see her. It'll be good for your, mental stability. And he talks to her. She's married. She has 2 kids. And he walks away kind of content. I guess he can now bury that part of his past. And Jerem Sheila's almost looks like she's withering away. And she's like, And I think she just is going to disappear because this guy's over. Jerem Sheila was like a surrogate for his lost love. And now he's over it. Here we have another chapter of the Bo Jeffries saga, Our Factory Fortnight. And this one is done in that old English boys comic style. Well, not really a comic, but you know, like the picture stories. I think they were popular in like the 10s and the 20s and 30s of the 20th century. And once again, it's kind of funny, kind of humorous. Of course, it's just this terrible holiday. And the Bo Jeffries do lots of weird things. I like the idea that the Uncle Festus, the vampire, of course, he can only moonbathe. He can't go to the beach during daytime. But his skin is so sensitive that sometimes if he stays out too long, the constellation of Orion was printed on his stomach. He got like starburn. And Alan Moore is one clever chap. The really homely sister Ginda, when she goes in the Hall of Mirrors, it makes her look all beautiful and thin. Raoul, the werewolf, keeps getting in trouble. He keeps eating people's pets and stuff. And then... So this is a weird story. It's Zerk again. And Zerk is on this planet called Polize's planet, a world where crime is unknown because basically 80% of the population work for the police. Really nice art in this. I just love these opening images of this weird structure. And apparently Zerk has got himself a hot girlfriend. And she's totally in love with him. And she's like, oh, I gotta go to work. Of course, she's a cop, like most of the people on the planet. She kisses him goodbye, and during her debriefing that day, he shows the sergeant shows the video and says, "This is the guy we have to capture, Zerk, the interstellar pervert." And she finds out that Zerk has been sexing up other women while they've been going out. And she's like, oh, that son of a bitch. So she basically is all like, hey guys, I'll show you where Zerk is. You know, she's a woman scorned. She's going to bust him now. Sorry guys, I got to check who did the art on this. Oh, this is Gary Leach. So Pedro Henry, once again, he writes all the Zerk stories. And this time it's Gary Leach, who also does a really nice job. This is some nice sharp art. God, this is so gross. Zerk is wearing her panties when she gets home. And Zerk knocks her out. And they're... Oh, I can't remember what happens here. Sorry. And watch my favorite. Oh, so Zerk escapes. And I think his girlfriend's the one in trouble. And so, sorry, I'm not describing it that well, but you get the idea of it. And then Zerk finds another woman pretty quick. And he says, you're not in the Vice Squad, are you? And she's like, no. I would never be on the Vice Squad. Those guys are bastards. So Zerk asks for some, he's like, would you like to sample some Priapin 90, this great drug? And she says, freeze, Buster, drug squad. So that's the final gag. She's not in the Vice Squad, but she's in the drug squad. So Zerk's busted. There's the ad for A1 number 5. And we have that, the end papers again. Kind of cute that they all gave themselves like pervy names, like Steve Amore and Gory Lech instead of Gary Leach. And we have a nice Brian Bolland back cover. Really nice line work on this. Look at that. Some nice stuff. And some funny fake quotes from various fake magazines and stuff. KY Quarterly. The Gluteus Review. Gaz and Spud. So there you go, guys. The A1 True Life Bikini Confidential. Pretty fun issue. Lots of good stuff in here. I think it's kind of not as quite as good as the normal, the first 6 issues of A1. But I think they just want to have a good time with this one, you know. And so that's it for the Atomica run, at least the first run of A1. But next time, or not next episode, but pretty soon, in maybe 5 episodes, we're going to be back with the new incarnation of A1, published by Epic Comics, by Marvel. And there's 4 more issues. And they're pretty nice. Not as chock full of stuff as the A1, you know, from Atomica. They're not nearly as fat, first of all, so they can't fit as much. But I was looking through the first one the other day, and I was like, oh, man, I forgot what great shit was in here. So I'm excited to look at those again. I just kind of flipped through them real quick, the first one. So hope to see you around then. Hope you liked this video today, and I hope to see you next time here at the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.